Welcome back. My name is John Paul Beatty, and welcome to the third annual Senior Wellness Fair. This is the workshop on co-housing. We were introduced to this topic yesterday during the Senior Wellness Fair's first day of programs, and today is a continuation of this same topic. If you decide that you're in the wrong workshop this morning, you can leave this meeting, go back to the e-newsletter, and click on the link for the other workshop and join it. But today's meeting is being recorded and will be available on swarthmoreseniors.com. And so today's facilitator for the workshop is Lynn Gaffney, who will guide us in the discussion from here.
Great.
I'm just going to sit in the background and help where I can.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for being here. And it's good to see your faces. And I was very impressed yesterday by the whole program and the comments about housing and about aging in place and what all the work that you guys have done already with the ordinances in town. So I think it's ripe for this type of housing that you guys already have this momentum and this need and this awareness of how community could look for seniors in your area, an immediate neighborhood community, as opposed to the larger Swarthmore community, which already seems very active for in the senior population. So I wanted to speak a little bit about the fact that this is a workshop, but it's only like 2 hours. So we're going to touch on things. Co-housing is full of workshops, and a lot of times the workshops, especially for forming groups, are like a whole weekend long for a workshop. There could be a workshop about a mission statement. There could be a workshop about then there's getting it built workshops once you have a site to actually build momentum and get people going. And then you would have site design workshops and participatory design workshops for the common house. So all these workshops are about a weekend long, like 6 hours a day with probably like a Friday night opening. So this we'll get to some things here, but it's really just to build momentum. The goal of the workshop is really just to kind of build momentum and have people start to meet afterwards. Shirley and Ed are the people who brought me down in January, and they're interested in people contacting them, and I'll have their email addresses at the end of the session. So that could be a good start to just try to get meetings together on Zoom or walks in the park together to just try to talk about how this can really move forward and build on momentum. So today it'll be a presentation, and then there'll also be breakout sessions. So the breakout sessions, I would say, depending on how many people actually come here, will be about 4 people per session, give or take, and they'd be about 5 minutes each. And then I encourage you to one of you stand up and say, okay, I'll present back to the larger group. And again, I could present generally the consensus of what was talked about or a couple of different items that were talked about so that we can have a more open discussion together. Okay, so I will right now share my screen. Okay, and go here and sorry, slideshow. There we go. Okay, so you guys have really impressed me and welcomed me into your meeting here today, and I thank you very much for that. So as we move forward here, we'd like to talk about imagining a type of neighborhood. Like this is co-housing is an intentional community, but it's really all about just kind of a neighborhood, whether it's a neighborhood of nine homes, neighborhood of 12, 20, 25. It's really just about the neighborhood. And I'd like right now just to share a couple of videos that, very brief, that I wanted to share yesterday that I think will get you in the mood here. gonna just now go here. This is a video from a group out in Stillwater called Oak Creek. It's the senior co-housing. It's been there for a couple years. I guess, yeah, 2010, McCammett and Durrett architects there. So probably about 2012 they started. And they have a great video that's just a couple minutes long.
Lynn, you might have to share your computer sound.
Oh, I'm sorry, you can't hear it?
No, it's very quiet.
How do I share my computer sound?
So when it's probably best to stop sharing and share again. It's easier to explain.
Okay.
When you hit share screen, it's and you select the screen that you wish to share. In the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see a little tick box that says share computer sound and optimize for video clip or something.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Boy, okay.
Do amazing things that we could never do had we been living by ourselves.
Is that better?
Friends here come from such different experiences, life experiences and backgrounds that if we have any questions or concerns from something going wrong in our houses or something in our lives, there's always someone to offer some good advice and just great people to talk over. My name is Cheryl Wilson, and I just moved here from California, and I love the area, I love the people, but I especially like the lifestyle, where when you go out in the morning, you'll probably see a neighbor, have a cup of coffee, there's things to do or not do as you choose. Everybody's been very helpful in helping me settle in. People have taken me to dinner, showed me where things are. You just don't feel like you're living alone, even though you have your own little private place. There's always something to do, and you can participate as much as you choose. To me, Oak Creek is a mini neighborhood where we know each other and care about each other. Another thing is we never are alone, yet we have all the privacy that we want or need because we have our individual private homes.
Okay, and just one more video. This is from a more an urban co-housing community that I was able to visit a year ago, and this is Jim, who is fabulous. Okay.
One of the nicest things that I've noticed is how caring this group is for each other. We have a group we put together called the Mitzvah Squad, which when somebody's having difficulty or an operation in the hospital or is having an illness or something like that and they're convalescing, we put together a support team. And they provide meals, they provide company, they provide relief for the spouse. And it was just amazing to me that this would come together kind of organically, and that of course we would have a care team that would take care of people. So that was one of the real surprises, is just how walking the walk of co-housing means sharing and caring, and it just happened to us in spades.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so let me get back to the slideshow. Okay, so imagine living in a neighborhood where the warmth and social strength of a community shines bright and improves daily comfort. Private homes are smaller, but you can stretch out in generous common spaces. Places abound for kids of all ages to play, work, study, cook, and garden together. Aging in place is not isolated, rather it's connected to supportive neighbors that really know and care for you. Design features promote spontaneous interaction while respecting your need for solitude and privacy. And sustainability is a fundamental aspect of the site plan, the buildings, and more importantly, the lifestyle. You and your neighbors helped create it, own it, and manage it completely. So what I'd like to do now is, early on in our meeting here, is to talk about who's here. I mean, you guys, whomever's on this call, probably know each other or have been in meetings together and social events, but why are you here? Why did you choose to come here to talk about co-housing today? And are you really interested in pursuing this? So it would be great if we could have a breakout for about 5 minutes. John Paul's going to put people randomly together in groups of 3 or 4. And again, one person kind of come back to the group afterwards when we all come back together, come back and kind of talk about why people are interested in talking about co-housing today. Okay. Hi, is everyone back?
Yeah, we're back.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to, let's see, talk about, let's see here. Okay, so now we can, this is just a great view of PDX Commons community right when they were moving in. I'm going to stop sharing because that's how I can figure out how to see your faces at this point. Okay, so would anybody like to share?
Oh, Barbara's gone. Mayor, do you want to share from our group?
Oh,
You're
up
still
here.
on mute, Mary.
Oh, okay. Oh, maybe. Here we go.
Two of us talked too long, so we didn't get to hear from everybody.
Uh-huh.
But I think we have, all of us participating in the group have been thinking about co-housing as a viable model. We're kind of in different age groups and interested in exploring the concept.
Mm-hmm. In different age groups, meaning some are interested in senior co-housing and some are interested in intergenerational co-housing?
We didn't get that far.
Okay.
The one couple, Barbara, no, let's see, Karen and Mark are in their 50s.
Uh-huh.
And Barbara and I are in our mid 70s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, a lot of the senior co-housing groups are formed with that range of ages, right? There are people that are in their young 50s, mid 50s, and then in Wolf Creek Lodge, I met a woman which is out in California, I met a woman who was in her 80s when it was, when they were moving forward with the project. So, I mean, it is a large range of ages, but you just bring different experiences to the process. So, do you see that as an issue? Was that?
No, we didn't get that far in the discussion.
Okay.
Let's see, I brought up two things that I remember when the Great Panthers started some co-housing, intergenerational. It wasn't called co-housing then, but it was 2 row houses next door to each other. Maggie Kuhn started it with some students from Bryn Mawr and Haverford. And so I'm very familiar with what that was, and that was back in the 70s.
Yes.
And as you were talking earlier, it reminded me of, I've spent so many weekends on the Chesapeake Bay at marinas, living on my sailboat.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I'm in the marina, there's all the common spaces for all the boaters to congregate. And it was just an absolutely magnificent lifestyle, every single weekend.
Mm-hmm. That sounds wonderful. My gosh, the boat, the common, yeah, that sounds great. And the other group who spoke together?
Oh, that was me and Linda, and we couldn't get, there was one other person who couldn't, Mike. And
Barbara?
it looks like they still can't. Metrovi, I don't know. I don't know
Okay.
who that is. Anyway. Yeah, Linda was referred by Nancy Daniels, a friend of mine. She plays flute, I play the oboe. That's how we met.
Uh-huh.
Linda's been following us for years. We're doing an eco-village in the Kimberton.
Yes, hi Joel, yes. Mm-hmm.
And I'm so glad to be on the call, and I'm just a fly on the wall. If people want to explore community, I'm going to say we're about the furthest along of anything happening in the Philadelphia area right now. It changes. It's sort of like the election. You don't know who's ahead at any given point. Chester County had one in southern Chester County that actually had working drawings. They did it ass backwards, Lynn. They designed it before they had a contractor on board. That is not how you do co-housing.
Yeah.
It priced themselves out of existence, and it was very embarrassing. We're not going to do that.
Okay. Yeah. So, but I hear yours is great, and I think I have your website to share later because you do have.
I put it up there for people. Yeah.
Yeah, you have a great website, and I think it would be worth anybody who's really interested in co-housing in the area should certainly talk to Joel and his group and what the process has been for them.
Thank
I
you.
think
Yes.
really.
This is your show, though, Lynn. I don't want to take away from your the show, and also I don't want to take away from Swarthmore. We're not trying to steal people. We're an educational group. Okay.
Yeah. I appreciate that. And Joel contacted me before the meeting too. So, okay, so this was great, and we'll just move along. I'm going to go back to sharing the screen. Okay. Okay, so so then we go back to what is co-housing, and a lot of you are very aware if you've been talking about co-housing for a while. So this is the screen that we spoke about yesterday. The residents create, the community shines, sustainability is inherent, common spaces are key, participation is key, and you design for bumping into each other and the consensus-based decision making. So some of my favorite communities that are being built right now, I was just going to share a few of them. This is out in Oregon, in Hood River, Oregon. It's a community that is right now starting construction. So they were able to complete their financing in COVID and start construction. They have a developer on board, which is a way a lot of groups go, is to bring in a developer, and that developer has done a number of co-housing communities, so has a lot of experience in it. And it's basically, if you can see here, the blue buildings in the center are the buildings that have all the residence units. So there are 28 units within these 3 buildings, so kind of apartment flats that you see here, built up here. And then there's the common house here, which has the view out on this great deck. And then back here is where people park. So the idea, again, of parking your car and then meandering through, seeing your neighbors, and then the common house here. A lot of times the common house is actually between the parking or the entry and the units. So you really do, you know, move through the common house or move by the common house before you get to your individual home. Here's another community that I was lucky to spend a whole afternoon at this summer. My daughter went to camp up here near Maine, and so I was lucky to be there during their happy hour or social hour on a Tuesday evening, and got a great tour. This is Belfast Co-Housing. It's
Okay, and I'm bringing gold pumps.
Very, very green. A lot of it was built prefab, and this guy Steve was great to give me a tour and spent a whole lot of time with my husband and myself as we walked through. They have a lot more land, and it was done by GoLogic Architects. They have a lot more land, and but the buildings are basically duplexes, meaning there's like 2 units or 3 units in each structure, and there's the common house right there in red. And then PDX Commons, which is where Jim lived, you can see the kind of the courthouse, the courtyard behind him in that video of Jim. But the building is right down here in Portland. And this is also senior co-housing. I should say that the last 2 communities I mentioned that I just showed you are not senior co-housing, they're intergenerational. But this is senior co-housing. And again, they have great courtyard space, a great common house space that is used for their dining, their lectures, and tons of meetings. So a great group of people. So one of the things, I'll run through a couple of the common aspects of development and design of co-housing. One of them is the pedestrian path that I've spoke about with both those all 3 examples there. And so that's, again, so that you're constantly bumping into your neighbors, seeing your neighbors. The idea of parking your car and walking up the hill is, or walking to your home a couple minutes away, could be hard to think about in the wintertime, but people do it. This is in Massachusetts, and it snows here a lot, and people are dragging their stuff to home, and also in senior co-housing too. This is a more dense situation. This is Swan Market in California, and the pedestrian path is more interior there. In PDX Commons and a lot of the more urban co-housing communities, a lot of times they have exterior, even in cold weather places, exterior hallways, so that you're looking down on your neighbors and seeing each other across the courtyard. And then you're also kind of sitting on your front porch. And so the idea of the front porch is very much part of the idea of co-housing, and really having a space that people are constantly stopping by. So if you want privacy, you're not really sitting on your front porch too much, but it really does get interaction. Oh, and here is PDX Commons front porches. So then there's the common house, which is a big part of co-housing, and tons of activities go on there, tons of meetings. There's rooms, lots of different rooms, a commercial grade kitchen usually, and a dining room. But I wanted to kind of let you guys talk amongst yourselves about what type of priorities you would see would be appropriate for a common house and exterior outside common amenities. What type of things that you would be interested in having. So I'm going to ask John Paul to split up into groups again, and maybe someone, it will be random groups, but maybe someone else could share when they come back, and so we get to hear some more voices.
Welcome back.
Hi, everybody.
I was just telling people to look at the N Street co-housing model in Davis, where people got together, tore down their backyards, turned one of the houses into a common house. It's an interesting model, and hi Nancy, and I think that was something Barbara Benton just mentioned.
Yeah, no, that is a great example in kind of a suburban setting, right? Yeah. So as far as common houses and common amenities, did you guys talk about some priorities that would be of interest? Would anybody like to share?
I'll start.
Hi,
I,
Linda.
I'm Linda and Nancy. Hi, nice to see your face. I live in Media Borough.
Uh-huh.
And my Joel and Barbara Benton were in my group, and so Barbara is another Swarthmore neighbor of Media. I wanted to say that I'm so glad to be here. I have to duck out. I'm chairing a Zoom meeting at 11, so I'm glad to
Okay.
do my part now, and I'm sure I'll see
Okay.
folks again.
Okay.
And we talked about amenities in a common house and how important it is to the community. We talked about making sure that it had a generator so it could provide a place of warmth and light during any mishaps or weather outages. We talked about the possibility of having it be an area for a common laundry room and workspaces, and assumed that it would have to be ADA compliant, even if there were areas of the community that were not. We talked about the possibility of having it be a place where nursing care could take place, skilled nursing care, but that could be costly and would have to be agreed upon by the wider community, even if its intent was just to be temporary after a hospital stay. But it's a slippery slope, and the community would have to be in agreement about what that meant. Barbara mentioned that this whole process of agreement on site and building and intent is so long that she's interested in learning more about how to shorten that process so that people can begin to not only dream about this, but to actually begin living it. So if I don't see any of you later this morning, I look forward to seeing you in the near future.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
That's great. That's great. I mean, as far as the nursing care facilities, a lot of the co-housing, the senior co-housing communities kind of turn the guest suite, or they have the guest rooms become more of a guest suites, and some of them are a little bit larger for possibility of long-term care. But a lot of those are used by family members that might stay for longer too. But what tends to happen is if somebody has like a visiting nurse, then, you know, all of a sudden 3 or 4 of their neighbors are using that person, so that the person has a familiarity with the community and then just tends to keep working with different people that at different periods of their life are recovering from different illnesses or operations. Senior co-housing communities, and you can look on various websites or speak to them personally, but they usually have right from the beginning an agreement as to, because the whole idea is that you care for one another, and you don't, you don't hire people to do everything, that you really kind of rely, you're good to your neighbors and your neighbors are good to you. So if you have an operation and are in rehab for your hip, or that there's people that are helping bring meals or going shopping for you and things like that. So, but there is, and there's definitely a sense of caring, physically caring for you too in certain senses, but people definitely have, or groups I've seen definitely kind of have a threshold where they will not cross as far as hygienic care and stuff like that. And so, and if it's agreed upon in writing and everyone's comfortable with it early on as they're moving forward with forming the group, then that seems the way it's best, it works best. Okay, is the other group share? Did the other group?
Could I throw in a thought? I'm always bringing up something that's related to a community I lived in West Philadelphia in the 70s, where a group of people rented a house, and a group of people three doors down rented another house and rented another house. And pretty soon we were a community. We had a lot of going back and forth, but we were in houses that were already there. And that's what I think of when I think of shortening the process. I look at these beautiful big houses in Swarthmore and I say, well, what if we got a hold of 2 houses that were next door or almost next door, And each of those houses were big enough for 2 or 3 sets of residents. And maybe there would be a tiny house in the backyard, and maybe there would be you know what I mean.
Yeah.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
And
I think it's I think that's a great idea, Barbara. I mean, I actually, later on in my slides, I have like 2 large houses next to each other. I didn't take the picture from Swarthmore because I didn't want to make sure it was one of your houses. But I mean, I used like houses in Montclair, New Jersey that look very similar as far as the scale of them. And yeah, I mean, if you have 2 neighbors that are thinking of downsizing, like how can that move forward? I think it's a great idea, Barbara. Okay, was there another group that wanted to share about the Common House, or no?
I can speak to what our group discussed real quickly. Probably the obvious things, but I guess sort of gives a sense of priorities. One was, just a general gathering space. And one thing that came up is, an area for game playing, such as board games or card playing. Number 2 was a shared cooking area. And number 3 was a guest space, including the possibility of also using that guest space as a working space. 2 that were probably less prioritized, but we did discuss them. One of them was exercise or gym equipment. And the last one was a music jamming area. For those who might be interested in jamming music with musical instruments. I think I got most of them. I don't know if my colleagues want to add anything.
That's great.
Oh, and we also talked about, this idea of fast tracking co-housing. So either, in some situations it could be apartments, in some situations it could be condominiums, but we noted that, if an extra condominium unit pretty much has the potential for, most of the shared common space concepts that we were talking about.
Like meaning have it be a regular condo building and then just taking one of the units and making that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The thought, in terms of if some people were wanting to do this so soon and it was it needed a fast track solution that could work.
And that would be finding a condo or an apartment building that was predominantly vacant.
We happen to discuss both. I'm familiar with the Strathaven condominium. That's where we live, where Karen and I live.
Very large.
There's constantly units up for sale. They're all very similar. There's some are larger and some are smaller. So depending on the number of people that were interested in co-housing and possibility.
Yeah, no, it is a great possibility. The idea is that, I mean, if you've lived in this condo unit for a while, you'll know if your neighbors are also interested in that, right? If like the people that live there, because part of the co-housing, the beauty of co-housing is that the process, the journey is very important to kind of building the social fabric. So if I think it's a great idea to think about talking to neighbors in your existing community and seeing if that could work out, pitching in and buying something together, or the backyard idea, pitching in and buying a structure that can be a common structure together. I mean, these are all great ideas. It's just a matter of if the proximity of the people next to you, if they're also interested. So
I'm currently aware of that in our condominium.
There's already an informal give and take, particularly in the era of COVID, people picking up groceries for each other. We are always getting presents of baked goods. I mean, so it's an informal give and take that's already here.
And of course, the condominium spaces, it's not a full unit. It's things outside the units, the areas that are shared, just a library and a workshop.
But it's not universal.
Woodworking and pools.
Yeah.
There would be a lot of people. There would probably be a lot of people opposed.
Yeah.
I mean, I live in an apartment building of 60 units. So I mean, we have a common laundry area. We have a library that's next to the laundry area. We like all know our, I mean, I love it, but it's not the camaraderie and the
Yeah, it's not on the same level.
Absolutely, yeah. So, but okay, so let me just get back to the presentation here. So I'll go through what existing co-housing communities have. And so there's definitely great spaces or large spaces or space enough that people can gather and play games and play music together. There's usually a larger kitchen, some of them being even having commercial grade, although that brings in a whole nother permit type set. So a lot of times it's just like 2 ovens next to each other, because if you're cooking for a community of, 20 units, be a lot of people to serve. So cooking together, dining together, doing projects together in the common house. A lot of common houses have shared laundry facilities. What a lot of current communities are doing is they have the hookup necessary in the private units in your home. So if you choose to do laundry, have the laundry in your home, that's fine. But a lot of people use those for pantries and just use the common house laundry facilities. Craft rooms. The one on the lower left is Wolf Creek Lodge Senior Co-Housing. They use their common space. They chose to get very lightweight tables that they move to the side and use the common space for all types of activities, including dining and yoga and meetings and dancing. And then the mailroom, the post board for messages. Some communities, the one on the upper left is Pioneer Valley, and somebody there wanted a sauna, so they did that. But there's guest rooms in most communities. Intergenerational, we usually have a playroom, so you don't have to have that at home. And then the library. And then there's the common amenities outside, the bike garage or the bike room, the wood room. Some of them are amazingly attended to and used by the residences, and the gardens. So whether it's a urban area or a rural area, it seems like everybody in co-housing really loves to garden, or at least loves to benefit from the people who do love to garden, who are on the gardening committee. This is up in Belfast this summer. They have an extensive garden. Again, the land is much larger than we're speaking about, but they have an extensive garden there. And then, the roof gardens, which could be in any type of dense setting too. But it's even just your front yards or your front corridors outside, if they were, to have your own gardens there to share with your neighbors. So then we talk about the priorities of your home. So again, the typical home, which many of you might live, is for America, is about 2,500 square feet. I personally live in a 950 square foot apartment with my husband and daughter. So I'm kind of used to city living in a small sense. Most co-housing units are in the range of 600 square feet to 1,400 square feet, as I mentioned, maybe 1,500 square feet. So they are downsized. So it's about thinking about what's essential, thinking about what can be purged, what spaces you don't need or you're just so sick of cleaning, and thinking about moving those activities to the common house. So I'm going to ask for a breakout room again. Thank you. Hi, everybody.
Hello again.
Hello.
Okay, so we are talking about your private homes. So was there anything that people would like to share, or someone who hasn't spoken maybe would like to share about what they could do without, what they could not do without in their private home if you're downsizing? Anybody? Oh, Nancy?
Light.
Light, okay.
We're big on light.
Okay. So natural light, a lot of natural light.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Great. Well, you know, if a place is smaller, then more of the rooms, you know, can have more access to light, right? Because there's not those back rooms that are tucked in, and especially with something that's like a clustered or a stacked type home. So, you know, the less proportionate, like the proportion of space that's up against exterior walls would be more so with the smaller spaces. So, natural light, key.
Add one thing real quick. Karen and I, you know, we've already downsized because we live here in the condo, but we do have a balcony, and our group discussed that that's nice. I mean, someone else brought it up, but I definitely agree that having a balcony
And windows.
as opposed to just flat windows is a really nice feature.
Yeah.
Okay. Windows, natural light. What about the actual spaces? Are there any spaces that are in your current homes that you could do without? Anybody have that extra guest room they never use?
Right. We have an extra guest room that we rarely need, maybe twice a year during normal years. And it would be wonderful to have one or two guest rooms or some number of guest rooms so that it wouldn't be too hard to get my turn.
Yeah, exactly.
In the main house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, they're usually guest suites so that people, you know, if your daughter's family was visiting, that they would have their own private little zone. And it's, yeah, and usually what happens is, you know, there's just a sign up board and, you know, there's no fee associated. It's just, you know, you just got to get in there for the holiday season early on. So you get your spot. Any other spaces in your homes that you want to talk about? Oh, Mary, you're muted.
I would definitely want laundry facilities in my unit. I do not want to go to some basement or a different facility to do laundry.
Okay.
Non-negotiable.
Okay. Well, as I said, in most new communities, there's usually a hookup that's nearby the kitchen for a stacked unit, and about 50-50 from what I've seen, either choose to use it as a laundry facility or just make it an extra pantry. So that's kind of a personal thing. Any other people want to share? I see a new face, Samina. Hi.
Yes, hi. I'm interested in this. I'm an architect here in Swarth where I've worked with the seniors a little bit for their space that the project got put on hold
okay.
in February, unfortunately, but hopefully some of it will happen. But I'm really interested in this concept. I also worked on the Aging in Place Committee in 2015 and was one of the writers of the report, the task force report.
Oh, great. I looked at that report. I was really impressed.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I was on the housing committee. So we've been talking about these. Carol Menke was a big driver of this as well with myself and Linton. And we were on the housing committee. So we've been talking about both a mixed use development where as you were talking about, the real estate limitation is what's limiting us in the downtown area, but there's a real need for spaces where the community can come together, especially because our community center was kind of reabsorbed back into Swarthmore College as of, I believe, last December, or is it this December? I can't really remember now. Nobody's
Time is a blur, right? Time is a blur.
But I think also this idea of co-housing is very interesting because it's a different building typology than the mixed use would be. And that might afford people the type of living that they're more used to in terms of a house type typology. So I'm interested in it from that point of view.
Thank you.
So thanks for having me.
Of course. Okay, so if no other comments, I'm going to move on unless anybody wanted to say anything else. No? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to.
We're here till 12, right?
Yes, yeah. Okay, so just speaking about the private home quickly, that again, it's about downsizing and thinking about your common house. Again, these are typical communities that are probably a little bit further out, so they have a little bit more land, but the common houses can get quite large. And then when you are moving forward, to really try to standardize your units, because customization really gets to be quite expensive, and the personal style starts to happen in your decor inside. So these are all co-housing units. So, you know, somebody likes yellow and somebody likes more modern. So, I mean, it's just all about what personally you want in your home. So the how is the real question that a lot of people have. Like, how do you get from, you know, people who want to work together and live in community and want to put some effort in to actually having a home in a community. This is Pioneer Valley again, up in Amherst, designed by Mary Krause, and Laura Fitch. A great example of co-housing. It's still going strong after, I don't know, like 25, 30 years. And I wanted to bring into the conversation Co-Housing Association of US, which is the organization that helps communities network and educate people about co-housing. And they have put together just kind of how to create it, right? So this is on their website, Co-Housing US, which I'll share later. But so you learn, you dream, you organize, and you form. So these are just people doing what you guys are doing, but like kind of the next steps. You go to conferences, like Shirley and Ed went to a number of conferences. I met Shirley and Ed in the Northeast Conference of Co-Housing at Pioneer Valley 2 years ago. So really, you know, just learning everything you can about it, making decisions, getting legal entities together, finding land, growing the group. That's what the group is really needing to do, is to grow the group. And to go through design process, hire professionals. Earlier on, actually, is good to hire professionals too. And put the finances together, breaking ground, selling. These are all steps that are on the website, but it does, there's a lot of steps that go into it. And I know the conversations a couple times now have gone towards how to facilitate quick co-housing. And there are certainly ways of getting to point, from point A to Z faster than others. With a new co-housing community, I would say the best advice I could give you is to bring in professionals early on, so that it's not just groups talking to each other, or individuals talking to each other, but you have people that have done this time and again, moving the effort forward. So I put together this task list that people have found helpful, groups have found helpful. The essential resident involvement is really on the left-hand side, and then there's task items that are facilitated by different professionals along the way. So you have your established part. So there's establish, there's the site, there's design, and then there's construction. During establish part, you're doing the outreach, you're having meetings like this, and then continuing on a bi-weekly basis, meeting and talking and really being honest about your abilities financially and your timing on things and your wishes and your dreams, and attending workshops. These are some examples of groups doing that and moving forward. in various ways. Having meetings like this, which, you know, during COVID times seems like a dream. We can't have such a meeting, but eventually we'll get there again. But at this point, groups are doing these type of meetings online and talking about priorities, about Common House priorities, about social fabric, social decision-making priorities, and really moving forward. And then it's about like really just putting the word out to get more people involved. So, you know, we have a small number of people on this group right here. So if you're very interested in doing this, then really share your information together and start seeing who has friends that might be interested, who's really great at marketing, who has a son that's or daughter that has website creation chops, and then started to bring in different people to help out. So I wanted to quickly just go through a couple of websites that I find are great. Let's see here. So this is Joel's website, and for an example of the site that he's building, he and his community are building. So again, there's a good bit of work that goes into getting to this point, as he has mentioned. And so you talk to a website designer, you look at the other websites, and you really start to think about what's important to you. But this is further along, as I'm sure he will tell you. It's further along. You're doing a lot of work to get to this point. Heartwood Commons is a really great example. You can see here people there. This group again is in the design part, so they're similar point, I would say, as Joel's group. And they are moving forward. They have their site, they have their design, but they're still selling units. So they really need to get out there and market. Skagit CoHousing is again at that similar point. Skagit is in Washington State. And so they have their designs and they're moving forward. So some of them are kind of more condos, and then they have some apartment type flats over here, and this is their common house. It's a really beautiful design too.
We're not seeing the shared
We're not seeing your screen.
Oh my goodness, this whole time?
Right.
Oh my gosh. I'm so
well,
sorry.
we were seeing it. I thought you stopped sharing intentionally.
Yeah, we didn't, when you started talking about Joel's site, we haven't seen it since.
Oh my goodness. Okay, sorry about that. Thank you
Good catch,
for letting me know. Here we go.
I thought that was totally on purpose.
Thank you for telling me. I will share again. What am I doing here? I have to share, so share screen, okay. Share, okay.
There we are.
There you are. Okay, so I'm gonna go through quickly again. This is Altair. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. This is Eco Village, Altair Eco Village, nearby, 20 minutes away or so. And so again, their website shows all the work that they've done to get to this point. They have frequently asked questions. They have about the team, the roadmap, who we are, the organization. So getting to this point is quite a ways away, but in order to kind of continue to sell the units, you need to kind of have a great presentation like this. So Heartwood Commons is a great example also. They are in the same state, I would say, as far as they've got the design, they've got their site, and they're trying to sell more units. That's a great example of how the meetings are at this point, right? They're all on Zoom. I don't know why they have their masks on while they're on Zoom, but maybe they were just trying to make a point there. And then Skagit CoHousing, here I was, a great example in Washington State. One of my colleagues from 500 Communities, who's a sales and marketing professional for 30 years, she's one of the members here. And so I think that has really helped in their sales and marketing, but they're working with a great team of developers and architects out west on their community. This is a group that's much more earlier on, so they have images of other co-housing communities, but they're trying to be the first senior co-housing in New England. And I met a number of these folks in the same meeting, in the same conference I met Shirley and Ed 2 years ago. So these are other examples of co-housing, and what they have is just, you know, on their website they have visions and values and getting involved, and they also have a survey here at some point as to if you're interested, you know, fill in a survey so that they can understand your interest. Richmond Co-Housing is already moved into, they just moved in, but this is their building, which is much more dense there. So lots of examples of websites that, again, you would bring someone in to help you, or if you have somebody already in your group, then that's great. Moving ahead. So then the where. The where is all important, right? Like, where in Swarthmore could this possibly happen? We have, right now I'm working with a couple sites on the where. I'm working with a group in Kingston, New York, who's very much focused on affordability within their co-housing. So we're talking to, as I mentioned yesterday, land trusts, as far as partnership with land trust, as far as trying to bring some of the cost down on some of the units, and also the partnership with the land trust, trying to facilitate the actual land purchase. But this is very early on, and that group is just growing at this point. So trying to grow the group, have the core residents be incentivized and proactive about site search, talking to landowners. These are all things that would happen. So the essential resident involvement is really growing the group and talking about the sites and figuring out how much money can be pulled together to find a site together. Or if one of the members of the group has the resources or the land to start right from that point, that's great. And then the financials would be evened out later on in the process, so that the original landowner would be evened out during the sales of the units. So things to think about, being close to village amenities, especially in your town. Again, the amount of land is not that great that's available there. Repurposing existing buildings, I think, is a great idea, whether it's an old home or an industrial or building of some sort that can be repurposed. If you're thinking about, maybe not in this particular Swarthmore, but thinking about more open land, to really just think about making it very dense in one area of the open land, so that you preserve the natural land for habitat, and actually give it to a land trust. A lot of people do. I think the zoning in your town, and certainly the fact that the townspeople are so interested in aging in place here in Swarthmore, you really have the attention and focus, and I think that's a great start. So you won't really have, I don't think, you'll have partners there as opposed to people that are butting heads with this idea. So in Swarthmore, maybe we can just kind of talk about where you're thinking, or what possibilities. We had talked last time, if people were at that meeting in January, I visited that day 2 sites in Swarthmore with Shirley and Ed, and they showed me, and those sites, you know, I don't know how realistic they are, but I think that they would be great things to discuss. The Morganwood land, which I guess the university owns, but there's discussions as to, you know, some of these mid-century modern great houses, how to repurpose them perhaps for aging in place community, or a community that's partially aging in place, partially young families, and that could be a source of discussion. There's a piece of property on, I just said it, Dartmouth Avenue, that is vacant. I know probably it's one of the 6 vacant lots in Swarthmore, but it is a great location. And I think if there were enough people that were interested in talking to the landowner and talking to him about the beauty of co-housing and senior co-housing and aging in place and the importance of it for the town, that could probably go a long way. This piece of property, I've seen a site plan that was developed for 12 units as far as just condos, not co-housing, but 12 condo units on this piece of property. It backs up to the rail, but it's really close to town. It would be ideal. So I guess I could just open it up a little bit as to talking about site priorities. What would be priorities for you all as far as site selection? And does anybody have an idea of a potential property that I haven't mentioned? Oh, and I do want to share this image. This is my large house, or perhaps they're even larger, but these are just a couple of examples of homes not in your town. But you know, the idea of taking a couple large homes that are that people might want to downsize from, that happen to be neighbors, and really thinking about that as a source of existing stock. The thing with these old houses, as you guys know, if you're living in them now, is that a lot of times there's accessibility issues, and there's energy conservancy, you know, issues as far as things. But both of those things can be dealt with a project that's much more attainable, much more cost effective, let's say, and time effective than a larger co-housing project. I think probably both can be done, right? So some people that might be interested in this, and then others that might be interested in a new construction co-housing. You know, these are the type of conversations to continue having as you continue meeting together. John Paul and I were talking about during the break of, you know, having 2 houses like this that might have, you know, great proximity next to each other, and thinking about a breezeway or some sort of structure that's between them that could have that, so combining lots, and then having like a vertical, you know, elevator within there to then start to branch out to the different units. But all of a sudden these 2 houses can be for, you know, 6 homeowners, or, you know, and that seems like a really great idea. But I would like to open the discussion now to what type of priorities that you guys have as far as site selection. And I'm going to stop sharing now so I can see you guys.
I love walkability.
Okay.
I love, and part of me belongs in Philadelphia proper, where I lived for many years.
Mm-hmm.
I love proximity to the train.
Mm-hmm.
I love the idea of being able to get most of my needs met without the car.
Yeah, that's great. Really important. And it's just a healthier lifestyle, right?
I think avoiding having to cross Yale Avenue, that's one of the downsides of the Morganwood. Although it's naturally beautiful, there have been fatalities crossing Yale Avenue.
Okay.
Here. So you know, we do have a crossing light now, which is not all that effective, frankly.
Okay.
I would not consider, if you're going out beyond Yale Avenue, you're decreasing the safety or the walkability. The Yale and Park is better, but here it's not good.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, walkability is one of the finer points of Swarthmore. The whole town is walkable.
Yeah. Yeah.
For sure. There's a couple of there's a gigantic it's at Harvard and Rutgers. There's a apartment building called, what is it called? The Harvard?
Or Harvard Square, I think.
Harvard Square.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it's an old Victorian. I think it was some kind of boarding house for students. I mean, it's old. I don't know. And then just around the corner a little bit, there's like a 6-person apartment building on Rutgers, which is quite nice. It's quite nice between Rutgers and Cornell.
Okay.
6 units.
6 units. That's in good shape. I mean, so there are some of these gigantic homes that have already been converted into apartments.
Great.
There's a big one on Park. It's got like a purple doors, or there's already a big one on Park in the main drag across from the library, a little bit down. So there are already big old places that have been broken down into smaller units.
That's great. And because of the ordinance that went in last year, which Samina was probably very instrumental with, the cooperative senior housing, is that what it's called, the ordinance? Then it would be these would be as of right, these type of conversions. So that's definitely a way of thinking. Is anybody interested more in the idea of kind of a new construction in one of the few vacant lots?
Sure.
I think Shirley and Ed have gotten off the call, but they were having some technical difficulties. But I think that was what they were more interested in, although they were, I think, very involved also with this aging in place initiative that has been going on for years in town. But so anybody interested in the new construction?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure. Why not? But but the most important for me is walkability, so it would depend where.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, if there's not that many lots available, it's just a matter of, thinking that through. But I would think about this particular lot. I think is a great lot, but I don't know the people that own it, and I haven't been at this point brought in to have those type of conversations yet with landowners. I haven't been retained to do so. But I think it's a great location because it is walkable, and it's kind of right on the. Do you guys know the site I'm talking about that I showed the picture of? Yeah, so everyone knows that site. So anyway, it's a nice scale, and it's on a residential street. Yeah.
And the owner doesn't want to sell it.
He doesn't want to sell it?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Who knows?
Who knows? I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing what can happen when a group of people kind of put a really wonderful vision in front of somebody. So, you never know. You never know. Mary, did you want to say something, I thought?
Yeah, has anybody in Swarthmore inventoried some of those buildings that were just mentioned that already have converted to multi families? The ones that,
they're not.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if there's an inventory of them.
I believe that Carol went through that in 2015, just took an inventory when we were at least working on the report. I forget whether, I think she has a list in the report actually. So it's probably there in the Aging in Place Task Force report. All of the multifamily housing, which we don't have, because it was a discussion about what we're talking about here, which is transit-oriented development a little bit. So she was focused on that and wanted to see where all of those places were.
Mm-hmm.
When we were taking a walk last week on Riverview Road, one of the very giant mansions there seems to have sold off some of their land, and now there's a development going in called One Providence. I don't know what that is, but it might be that some of the bigger properties that have a lot of land, doesn't look like it's available lot. I don't know, but maybe some of them could be encouraged to sell off some of their land. Yeah.
That's a very interesting thought. Yeah.
Yeah. And that also happened at another property on Riverview Road where they built behind it. They kind of created a little extra driveway and built behind them one of the big houses, and they built behind. So some of the properties may have more land. And
could you talk a little bit more about how the land trust works? Because, you know, we've got Natural Lands Trust, the national headquarters is here in Delaware County. And I'm assuming that it's people donate some of their land or a piece of land to a Natural Lands Trust. And then,
yeah, so land preserves and land trusts, yes, that's what happens. People donate their land to the trust so that areas can stay natural, right? But also people donate money to the trust so that they can continue to, if people aren't donating land, they can continue to purchase some land. The land trust itself, right, can purchase land that maybe the owner doesn't necessarily want to just give away. So there is that element to it. Like, for instance, in the group I'm talking with in Kingston, there's this particular park in town that is currently being rezoned. And it's currently being rezoned, and a lot of the townspeople are not very happy about it, but they are trying, the group that I'm speaking with, they're trying to get the land trust involved to see if the land trust can help them purchase part of this park and then think about having the smaller co-housing community in a section of it, but mainly preserving a lot of it. So, and they have some resources to do that, right? So, and because it's a nonprofit, I'm not an expert in land trust or community land trust, but because it's a nonprofit, that also helps in many ways too, as far as the purchasing power and, for instance, and cooperative banks being able to help with that group. I'm talking with a cooperative bank up in New England who would be happy to talk with the group if they partnered with a nonprofit, right? So sometimes cooperative banks want that kind of partnership.
so we've got Swarthmore College.
Yeah.
Here, and we've got Natural Lands Trust here. And we've got Morganwood that the college bought from the Presbyterian Church. Has anybody really drilled down for some potential models that would work where the college and the Natural Lands Trust and then Swarthmore Borough kind of come together with a viable plan for Morganwood?
I don't know. I personally don't know.
Not that I've heard. Sounds like a good way to proceed.
Yeah.
Yeah, because as I understand, the Swarthmore College has not been keeping up the properties in Morganwood.
Right.
They've been deteriorating year by year by year. So at some point, the college is probably going to, you know, exit from their ownership of Morganwood. So if the exit plan could include something that would relate to this interest in doing a co-housing thing, or senior housing or whatever, because that's a decent piece of property. There's quite a few houses there now.
This might be a good time to think about that, because as we get out of the pandemic, when we get out of the pandemic, Swarthmore, like all the colleges, is going to be hurting for money. And that might be a time for them to make a decision to get rid of some of these properties. They do have some properties, and, they're going to have to make some choices. And
right.
So, yeah.
And Linton is close to the heartbeat of Swarthmore College.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask where Morganwood is? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, John Paul. What?
I don't know where Morganwood is.
Did I open a can of worms? I'm sorry. No.
If you're going from Chester and Yale and you're going down towards Wallingford, if you take a left on instead of a right towards the Presbyterian Church on Harvard, if you take a left on Harvard there, and you go down towards that way, that's where it is, right, guys?
Yeah, it's kind of like a dead end. It's a loop.
Yeah.
So you have to keep driving till you can't drive anymore on Harvard, and you loop around.
Ah, gotcha.
Morgan Circle.
Oh, yes. Okay, I know.
So
where it is.
basically, it's the other side of Harvard from Yale, where you probably usually are.
And there were some really, really great mid-century modern houses there.
I know exactly where this is. That's actually I live on Fairview, which Harvard then loops around, where it's like that weird kind of
right.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a little footpath to get through from Fairview.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you could take like a 10-minute walk today.
Yes. In fact, I've biked that circle before, and I just okay. I thank you for catching me up.
Exactly where it is.
Yes.
Yeah, and I hear reports that some of the houses are, kind of not going to be habitable for too long with mold issues and stuff. So, they might not be able to be used as they are, but it's a nice little circle. With help, with that kind of space, that would be great. That is great for small houses.
Is it currently housing faculty, or who is students? Who's living there?
Retirees of the college can rent the houses.
Oh,
I don't know. There are some younger families though. I don't know if they're professors.
There a friend of mine lives there, and she just retired from fundraising at Swarthmore College.
Okay.
It used to be, before the college owned it, it was retired Presbyterian ministers who lived there. And I think there's only one or two at most Presbyterian ministers who still live there. But some of the houses are not inhabited now. And there was a tiny house on the property of one of them
yes.
a year or so ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not there anymore, but they're basically just deteriorating because Swarthmore College isn't doing anything with the exteriors.
What's the actual distance from that Morganwood property to town center?
Minimal.
Is it?
I'd say it's a half a mile.
Yeah.
But it's crossing that big road. It's crossing.
Yeah, there was a big sidewalk initiative. It got actualized in 2016 and 2017. So at the time we were writing the report, the study had gone through, and it was being implemented. And so there's now these like flashing lights, which are supposed to, you can press a button for the pedestrian, and then there's flashing lights. The problem is, and all of us walkers will know this, is that the traffic doesn't stop even with the flashing lights. So if you trust the light, you could find yourself in a very dangerous situation. So you kind of can use the light and then just sort of act as you would before, and then see who actually honors the light.
Oh my goodness, that's
Right.
I just did a quick Google map, and it looks like it is 0.8 miles.
Okay.
I thought it was more than a half. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we
well,
have
from the top of the circle, I suppose.
in terms of
Morgan
walkability, I
Wood.
mean, the whole town, which is very small, it is walkable, but we have these big bisectors, like Karen was saying, where it's not only Yale Avenue, which is a big one, but I would say also Chester and Swarthmore Avenue, and these are kind of the big roads. They're county roads, and we have traffic that is going through here on commutes from one place to another. So we don't have, I think if you tend to be a driver in the area where you're also often a pedestrian or a biker, you tend to be more careful. But there are a lot of people, especially on weekdays, that are
just moving through.
So there's been a lot of community activity on really each of these thoroughfares. I know on Fairview there's an initiative right now. That's another one, which is a very busy road, to just calm the traffic. All sorts of lights, and you were moving this fast, and but because the borough doesn't have control of the roads, they are not our roads.
They're county roads.
Yeah, they're county roads. So you can't just put stop signs where you want to. And so I think that's a big issue. So that's why the Dartmouth site is really great, because it's, down the street from the co-op and the library and everything and the train station. And, so you got your food, you got your connection to everywhere else, you got something to read,
Yeah, no, it looks great. But I mean, again, it's about getting a group of people together and talking about the beauty of this way of senior co-housing. I'm just going to go through the last couple things that I wanted to share. One thing I did want, I have to share my screen again. Okay. Hi, Marty. I see you there. So I wanted to share, let's see. So the design part, and just trying to get out of the full screen here. How do I get out of the full screen again?
I would just hit escape.
Escape, okay. Sorry, thank you. So one last video I wanted to share, which I'm gonna have to do this because this is right. Boy, I'm having some
In fact, if you go up to that and go to more.
Okay, am I still sharing?
You are still sharing.
Okay, I'm just gonna share this one video, which is about the participatory design process. Mary Krause is an architect who's done many co-housing communities, and now she doesn't really do the architecture aspect of it, but she's a participatory design facilitator, and she speaks about the design process of co-housing in a really beautiful way. So I'm going to share that.
I've been working for about 30 years with co-housing communities using a participatory design process. I think the wealth of using participatory design is it gets the future residents to work with each other, working together in order to design their community. But at the same time, I guess what I'm fond of saying is that they are working on forming their social community in the process of building their physical community. And then they get to practice positive ways of listening to each other actively and making difficult decisions together, but learning to do it in a way where they're honestly listening to each other, honestly speaking with I statements about these are my fears and my hopes, this is what I want, but I can hear that this is what you want. So it's very much that relationship, and it's also working together to envision the community so they get invested in a different way in where they're going to live. And I live at Pioneer Valley Co-Housing, which is the first community for which I was one of the architects. Our community really benefited from together on the designs, having those conversations together. And by the time we moved in, we'd already been working together. And we already had been forming relationships together. And that has continued. And it's a great place.
Okay. Okay, and then just back to a couple more slides. Present slide. Slideshow.
Current slide?
What?
Is it from current slide?
Oh, yeah, thanks. Okay, so here we are. Again, these are for potentially a little bit larger sites than we're talking about, but the idea of working in a workshop together, you have your site plan workshop, which this is a lot what these are here, and then you would have other workshops for your common house and your unit design. So it really is about giving and taking, getting to know each other, and putting the time in now, early on, so that when you're making decisions that pertain to your day-to-day life once you live in the community, you already know your strengths and weaknesses and have decided how to make decisions together. So the construction process, again, it's about getting developers involved. Most co-housing communities that are being built now have a developer involved also. During the time that the construction is happening, you're really trying to sell those last units, right? You have to get those last units sold. So the homeowners, the residents that are involved at this point are really, at this point in the process of construction, are expert in sales and marketing, and talking to your neighbors and having a stand at the local vegetable market and green market and talking about your community and really speaking about the benefits of living there. So a couple more images of people in co-housing. This is my mentor here, Katie McCammett, here and here. She's the prominent and very, very experienced co-housing development consultant in the country and helps people out. And on the East Coast, I kind of work with her in conjunction since she's on the West Coast. So the last question, and I would say now is a really good time because you guys have been talking about aging in place with this senior wellness fair. You have people that are interested. And I would encourage you to kind of move forward and start to talk amongst yourselves about this. Or continue talking about amongst yourselves about these sites, the idea of forming community together. And I would suggest, although Shirley and Ed had some technical difficulties today and they weren't able to really partake as much as they had hoped, to please give them a call or email and try to start setting up some meetings together. There's some other resources on my website, my co-housing website, which is Co-Housing Opportunities Group, and you can use those resources. And then also the Co-Housing Association of the US, they are the #1 resource, and they actually have right now a great thing going on for forming groups. So if you guys do in the next month or so really try to form a group, if you just kind of go to them saying we're forming this group, you can get this group discount on all their video webinars. And their video webinars are really great. They have the experts across the whole country talking about every aspect of putting together co-housing communities, big and small, urban, rural, the whole thing. So that is my last slide, I think. Except that, yes. So any final questions?
I don't have a question. I'm sorry I wasn't here long enough to develop questions. I'll have to watch your presentation online because I was at the other downtown development seminar. But Lynn's not here either, nor is Bill. But Lynn, I just wanted to thank you and Beth both for having shared your time with us this weekend. I know really they're important topics. They're going to be things that we need to think about over the next several years. And again, thanks for your participation. I look forward to seeing what went on today once they get it uploaded onto the website, because I know they are both recorded and we'll be able to watch them at some future time. So again, thank you for participating in all this.
Well, thank you, and thank you, John Paul, too, for helping me out today.
Not a problem.
Yeah, great job. And any last comments or questions?
I know this is a can of worms, but I think what we need is somebody to stand up and say, I'm going to start facilitating this. And I think, somebody who's an organizer type. So, if any of you is thinking, I really want to do this, step up, because it's been kind of hard getting a group together that had the right energy to start moving on it. And it's just a really exciting idea. And I love it.
It really is. Who are you pointing at, Nancy? Oh, big thumbs up. Okay. In my screen, it looked like you were kind of pointing at Mary, the way you guys are organized. Like, yeah. So, okay. Well, please, I'm sure you guys have each other's information. Please give a shout out to me if you have any other questions, or if you want to move forward in any way. And I appreciate your time here today, and thanks so much.
We are grateful. Thank you very much, everybody.
Yes, thank you, Lynn.
Bye.
Nice to meet everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.